Well, good morning again, and I've got a couple symbols up here I want to put up on the screen, and I want you to raise your hand if you know what these symbols are. If you are on the computer, for most of us that are maybe working from home or remotely or wherever we may be, we may have seen these symbols. For those of us who are binge watchers at night, you may recognize the red one from Netflix, right? And what does that symbol mean? Buffering, right? Buffering, loading, reloading. There's another slide here that'll put that up there. And so if we stream anything, if we're on our computers, if we're searching the internet, at times we get this message when we're trying to load a video. And sometimes that might be because our internet is slow. Sometimes that might be because we've lost connection. Sometimes that might be we just don't have enough bandwidth to get all this binge watching done at 1 a.m. And so whatever our circumstance may be, we may have come across this buffering symbol. And I wonder how many of us in this current state of our lives, in our culture, in our world, do we feel like our life is buffering? How many of us feel that as we look out into the world, we see this constant loop? And we're just waiting for things to get back to normal, as if they will happen one day, whenever that may be, as we stare out and we look out into the world and we witness kids going back to school, and then school shutting down. Kids going to school virtually. And what does the future of our education look like? And we're staring at this buffering symbol of our children going off to school and trying to navigate that new world. Or maybe it's the workplace, right? I saw one post about GM not sending their workers back till 2021. And so, are we working from home? Are we working in the office, in the workplace? And we're looking at this buffering symbol for our work and our daily tasks and wanting to get back to a schedule and a norm, but we just continue to see this buffering. Or maybe, just maybe, it's some of the racial tension that we see in our country and the climate that we face right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, and to back the blue, as if you have to choose one or the other. And we see this rotating symbol of constant problems in our culture. Or maybe, just maybe, that spinning wheel is the nice politic life that we witness on a regular basis, and constant smearing of each other and no longer working together, right? Whatever this climate may be, whatever the buffering may look like. Oh, and how could I forget the coronavirus, right? How could I forget the coronavirus that's constantly spinning in front of us, that's changing our world daily and weekly as things open and they shut down, and things open and they shut down, and this is how there's policies and procedures that change every day. Now, I'm not even talking about what's happening in your world. I'm not even talking about what's happening in your life, in your context, in your workplace, in your family, and what buffering symbol you're looking at. And that's overwhelming, just looking at our world, to see all that continues to spin but not reload. And so sometimes, if you're like me, when the internet goes down, if things aren't working up to speed, you get another message. And that other message you get is something along the lines of, have you checked your internet connection? Is your router still working? Have you checked to see, are you connected to your Wi-Fi? And so if all those things are working, and next thing you know, what does it say? Go reset your modem. Go restart your router. Go reset these things. And hopefully after that forced reset, maybe you might get to stream the rest of that episode, right? You might get to see what's going on. A reset. And this morning, the main question that I want us to ask is, are you in need of a reset? Are you in need of a reset for your life, in your situation, and in your circumstance? You see, about a month ago, Pastor Larry told me, he said, hey, I want you to preach on Labor Day weekend. And so, start thinking about what you want to do. It'll be in between my sermon series. And so you've kind of got some freedom to navigate, what you want to speak on. And so I started working probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, going through the scriptures, trying to dig in, trying to think of what might be relevant, what might be important, what might be significant for us in regards to where we are today. And I got to this passage and I kept digging in for about 2 weeks. And last Sunday, I was out there in the lobby. Some of you may know Ron. He's our head usher. And we're out there in the lobby and we're talking. And he says, hey, Graeme, you get to preach next week, right? And I was like, yes, I do. And he was like, what are you going to preach on? And I was like, well, you see, and I wanted to have an answer for him, but I didn't. Because no matter how much digging I did into the passage, I felt like I just kept hitting a wall. That the applications that I was trying to align with the passage and the stories, they just weren't fitting. And so I said, well, I'm still working on it, Ron. And in that moment, I felt like Jesus was saying, look, scrap it. Time to reset. Time to start over and to come up with something. And I was like, God, you don't understand. Like, I've got deadlines that I have to meet. Like, I have to preach this sermon next Sunday. And I have to have information turned in to our communication person by Tuesday. So that means I have to have some idea of what I'm preaching on by Tuesday morning. I don't have anything, Lord. And it was almost as this passage spoke clear to me in verse 28 that we heard earlier. It says, do you not know, have you not heard that the Lord is an everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth? He will not grow weary or tired, and his understanding no one can fathom. And it was just a slap in the face. It was like, Jesus is like, really? Really, Graeme? You don't think that I can give you something else to prepare and to preach on next Sunday? Nice try, buddy. Like, I'm the creator of the universe. I am everlasting. I don't grow weary or tired. So keep trying, and I'll show you who I am in the midst of your reset. Because, Graeme, what you really need to do is you need to reset your perspective, your heart, your mind, your soul. Because there's something bigger at work than just this sermon that you need to get a hold of. And so I'm like, all right, how do I argue with God, right? And so Monday morning comes around. I'm frantically trying to get Micah ready for school, get his backpack ready, get his lunch ready, get his water bottle together, and prepare him to get him out the door. And I know that staff meeting starts at 9, so I've got, time to get Micah to school. I've got 30 minutes to dig in with Jesus, to get some coffee, and to really just come up with something. Hopefully, so that I can turn it in, so I at least have a passage or a sermon title or something to turn in. Well, I'm on my way to school. I show up to school, and I've got a picture up here of Micah and his little buddy, Barrett. So I show up to school, and the Johns, who are part of our church, Chad and Barrett, get out of their car. I get out of my car with Micah, and we walk the boys in together. And so there's a picture of them walking into school. And as I'm watching them walk into school together, they're so excited. They run off from the dads, and they're just doing their thing. And I get this picture. And as I get this picture, I'm like, man, you can't really tell in this moment, but Barrett's backpack looks significantly larger. It looks like there's more stuff in Barrett's backpack. And I'm like, what is in Barrett's bag? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, crap. And I face plant like this, and I'm like, I forgot Micah's nap mat. Duh. So if you've had little ones, you know that they sleep on something during the day. And so Micah gets this nap mat, and he brings it to school on Monday. He takes it home on Friday. We wash it. All good. As long as Dad brings it back to school, right? Well, Dad didn't just forget to bring it to school. Dad forgot it in the washing machine Sunday night. So it wasn't even dry. So I'm speeding home, trying to figure out, what am I going to take Micah? I'm calling Deshaun. She's like, it's okay. We'll get something. Like, we'll just come home. We'll get it. And so I come home. I get this thing to take back to school because his nap mat's not dry. And in that moment, I'm driving home. I'm like, Lord, I just need a do-over. I just need to be reset. Because I've got to come up with a sermon, and I don't have anything written yet. And in that moment, it was like the lights turned on. I was like, there it is. I'm in need of a reset. And so where are you this morning? Where are you in your life? Not at the coffee table, not in the sanctuary, but where are you internally? And what are you facing? What are you going through? Where are you on the inside? In your heart, in your mind, in your spirit? And how worn out are you? How many of us are stressed out? How many of us are fearful, frustrated, angry, tired, and weary? Where are you, and where do you need a reset this morning? You see, the scripture passage that we heard shared from this morning comes from the book of Isaiah. Isaiah is one of the major prophets of the Old Testament. And some scholars believe that the book's so large that it's kind of broken up into 3 different segments. Isaiah's 1, 2, and 3 sections of the book. And the chapter that we heard this morning comes from the beginning of what they believe is the second portion of Isaiah's book. Now, some context to that is that the Israelite people, they've been in Babylonian captivity, all right? They've been in exile, and Pastor Larry's touched on a little bit of that during his sermon series that he just wrapped up. And they were under this oppression under the Babylonians. So the chapter picks up with this beginning of this change of tone with Isaiah speaking these words to the Israelite people. A word not of punishment, not of pain, but a word of hope, a word of healing, and a word of restoration. Can any of us think of a situation today in our world that could use a little hope, a little healing, a little restoration? Now, to the start of this reading, we heard these words. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Well, why would God speak these words to the Israelite people? Let's see what the passage says directly before that in Isaiah 40, verse 27. It says this, "Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God?" Anybody ever complained to God? Anybody ever told God that you were angry and frustrated? Anybody ever felt like God didn't hear or see what you were experiencing or enduring? Anybody ever been there? Right? I'm guilty. And in that moment, it's pretty hard to think about God's great power and might because we're in our situation and we begin to forget what he's been able to do. You see, I can imagine that the Israelites felt a little bit like this. They had heard stories about God bringing the people out of Egypt and into the wilderness and the pillar of smoke and fire leading them out free. They had heard about God bringing them from the desert and into the promised land. They had heard these things and known these things about God's power and might and his abilities, but yet in their moment, he wasn't there. He wasn't there in the Babylonian captivity, in the Babylonian exile. He wasn't present. We didn't feel him. We didn't know he would hear us. We didn't think he would come to our rescue. And at times, that's what it feels like. Is God able? Is God actually watching what I'm going through? Is God actually hear what I'm thinking and feeling? You see, God says this word at the beginning of the chapter As Isaiah opens up this chapter, he says, speak comfort. Speak comfort. I want you to tell them, look, the sins that they have committed, the double portion of pain and suffering that they've experienced, it's over. That's it. He says this, he says, tell them to make way for the Lord. Tell them that God is going to come and deliver you, that God is going to come and bring you out of your situation, and in your moment, he's going to rescue you. How many of us need to make way for the Lord to come in? How many of us are ready for the Lord to come and to bring healing, wholeness, and restoration? And are we prepared? You see, the prophet says, he says, going on in chapter 40, he says, every valley will be raised up, every hill made low, the rough ground will be leveled, the rugged places will be made plain. Who needs a reset today? You see, in this moment, he's speaking about all these circumstances that they've endured, that it's, I will set you free. I will bring wholeness and healing to you. Who needs the Lord to level the ground that you've been standing on for the last 5 months? I know I could. Isaiah 40 verse 5 says this. He says, and the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. So we wait. We sing that song this morning. While I wait, it stinks waiting. It stinks waiting. And how long will we wait? How long will we constantly stare at this buffering wheel that's in our lives that we just want it to be reset? How long will we wait? You think the Israelite people doubted? Think they were fearful? Think they thought that they had been abandoned? We can relate, right? If we're honest that we can feel some of that. And God goes on to speak. And he tells the prophet to say, look, I'm going to display my power among the people. I will show you that the Babylonians are nothing but wilted grass, but my power will reign and deliver you. And he continues to speak about how he speaks things into creation and the stars and the hosts that are out there, that they observe that in those moments he is speaking of his greatness, his might, his power, and ability to redeem the Israelites. So let me ask you this. Do you not know? Have you not heard that God is strong and mighty to save? That God is gracious, compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love? That our God is an everlasting God, that he will not grow tired or weary, and that he is here to carry your burdens. Jesus said, take my yoke upon you, right? For my burden is light, right? He is the only one who will ever understand who we are more than we will ever understand. You see, God is ready to reset. It's what he was doing for the Israelite people in Isaiah 40. He said, it's time to start over. It's time for a reset. It's time for you to see, to understand that I am here. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to wrap you up in my arms. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. Like he did to me this week. I'm going to give you a reset of your heart, of your mind, of your spirit. He will give strength to our weary souls. You see, the promise that Isaiah spoke to the Israelite people, it's a promise that we can cling to today. Our contexts are different. Our situations are different. But God is still an everlasting God who will not grow weary or faint, who will surround you and guide you and protect you and walk with you, No matter what your situation may be, the buffering signal that you've been staring at for however long you've been staring at it, he is still faithful and steadfast. That is a promise that we can cling to, that he will be here for us today, tomorrow, and to the end of this age. Who needs a reset this morning? Stop staring at the buffering symbol in your life, waiting for things to go back to normal. It's time for a hard reset. It's time for a hard reset on our hearts, on our minds, on our souls. You see, this captivity thing is a thing of the past, but the freedom that Jesus offers is one in front of us today. So where are you? And are you in need of a reset? Let's pray.